In this video, I will comment what I understand about Hegel's logic and to share my knowledge with what I call the Hyperboreans. They are the most enlightened spiritual Europeans, and the only thing that they need is to understand themselves as logical modes of one process, that which we call reality, and to explain in intelligible terms. I said in my previous videos that wherever there is a we are all one spiritual entity. We are all interconnected. We are all manifestations of one spirit. And I could say that God is being. Whatever is God, because outside of God, there is nothing. God is being, but it's not really true, because God becomes God only to the extent that he becomes conscious of itself. So if I said God is being, I could say that a piece of trash is God, or a toilet is God, or a trash can is God. That's stupid pantheism. Everything is within God, but God is the self-consciousness of being. And to express it in symbolic terms, we could say that we are all asleep, and we are in a process of awakening, a collective awakening. That's what the New Age or whatever they say. But in order to truly awaken, one must go through what Hegel calls the path of the negative, which is my path, which is a path of suffering, but also of knowledge and understanding. And in order to awaken, we must, and I must, conceptually grasp the whole of being. And the greatest gift that I can make to others is to enlighten them and to show them their unity with the logical process of self-cognition, that which we call God, and to help them understand themselves as moments of God becoming conscious of himself. And I want to start with the Europeans, because Europeans have been confronted in this day and age by a process of negation. As you know, the Europeans in the Western world are being replaced. So they are confronted by the negation of their own being. And this negation forces them, not all of them, but some of them, to think about their identity, about their essence, about what it means to be white at first, what it means to be European, what is the purpose of life, what is our real identity, who are we, what should we do, all these kinds of questions. And they are drifted, they are brought in a process of self-awakening. And it's a very difficult process, because when you look at the world as it is, you suffer, because there is misery and pain and conflict within the world. And the most spiritual Europeans, those that I call the Hyperboreans, they have had to go through a path of suffering and to shatter their illusions about reality. And that's because they have suffered, that they have become so spiritual and enlightened. And I myself, I have suffered intellectually also, and I am about to suffer much more. But what suffering has taught me for now, and what hopefully it will teach me later, is that being negated and being confronted by the negative, which in the realm of physics is what we feel as pain. To be negated means to experience pain, or in the psychological realm, to experience despair or doubt or sadness. These are modes of the negation expressing itself. But being negated forces you to think and to understand and to grasp and to conceptualize. And spiritual people are those who have suffered, but those who also have overcome the suffering and brought the positive and the negative in a unity. And they understand that without the good, without the bad, there would be no good. And they grasp these opposites in their unity. And yeah, that's a very long introduction. But what I want to do is to help and to enlighten those I consider to be Hyperboreans, which are self-conscious manifestations of European gods, and European gods are nothing other than modes of the one spirit. These are um, psychological. I insist on psychological, so it's both the soul, the psyche, and the logical aspect, which are made manifest within certain human beings, and they experience themselves as thinking their own divine essence. And there are very few people in the world for now who have attained this level of self-consciousness. And the only thing that they lack, and that I can bring them, I think, is to understand the metaphysical, logical, Hegelian process at work in their individual development, which is connected to the whole development of the entire universe. They are a part in the self-movement of the entire cosmic process, if one might say. And I can bring them the self-consciousness of their own identity with what Hegel calls the absolute ID, which is the mind of God becoming conscious of itself through man in the world. That's what I had to say. And I will begin in a chronological order by commenting on Hegel's Wissenschaft der Logik, which is considered to be one of the most difficult books ever written. But when you've been into the world and into the path of the negative, the abstract logical categories start to make sense, and it becomes a lot more intelligible. So Hegel says that classical metaphysics and what the pagans in the European sphere called supernatural, I said in a previous video, what is supernatural is metaphysical. And Hegel teaches us that classical metaphysics consists in four main branches, four particular aspects of the one doctrine of metaphysics in most metaphysics thus far. Ontology, which is the thinking consideration of being. What is being? What does it mean to say that something is? What is a thing? What is reality? What is are the categories of being, quality, quantity, relation, and stuff like that? Are they categories of being, of ontology, or are they categories of thought? If I say that this book has a quality, is it the quality, is it in the book or in my mind? These are the kind of questions that metaphysics deals with. Then there is rational psychology, which is the thinking consideration of the soul. Do we have a soul? Or a more deeper question is, do we have a body? That's pretty spiritual. What is the soul? Is it independent from the body? How the body and the soul are interconnected? How do they reciprocally influence one another? Is our soul immortal? Where does it come from? What are the faculties of the soul? What are our mental power? What can we do? Imagination, representation, will, intelligence, memory, and stuff like that. So in the pagan communities, there are questions about the soul, but and they think that the paganism has answers to bring, but the entire philosophical tradition of Europe consists in rationally thinking about the nature of the soul. And yeah, then there's the cosmology, And then again, the right-wing pagans ask themselves questions about the origin of the world. Is the world created? Is it eternal? And they believe that in pagan views, it's a recurring cycle. It's cyclical and not linear, and that the Ragnarok with the twilight of the gods and stuff like that. And in metaphysics, questions of cosmology deal with the nature of the world. What is the world? Was it created? Is it eternal? How do we explain the rationality inherent in the world? Why do the movement of the planet behave as they do? What is is there an end of the world? Is the world ending at aiming at something? Is there a purpose in the world? Was it created with a purpose in mind, or is it just there? These are kind of questions that metaphysics deals with. And then there's natural theology, which is a rational discourse, a rational speech about God or the divine. And Hegel's philosophy, Hegel's logic, is an onto-theological science, namely that being, God, and logic are one. That being is a logical process which consists in the self-cognition of the divine. One could say that. So being, logic, and God are one within Hegel's system. And this is the preface to the science of logic, and he wonders. He says that in metaphysics we ask ourselves questions about efficient causes or mechanical causes and end causes. An end cause or a final cause is the idea that something is determined to be moved by a purpose, a goal, that it is aiming at something. So the aim, the end, the purpose is that which is not there, that which is not present, but its lack of presence manifests itself by initiating a movement towards which the thing which has a purpose or a goal is aiming at. So the purpose, the end goal is what at the end, but at the same time it's at the beginning, because it is that which initiates the movement. So it's and modern science believes that there are no end goal and no end purpose, and that there are only efficient causes. And an efficient cause is an external cause which make things act and behave the way they do, because they are influenced by previous cause, which themselves were influenced by previous cause, and that the entire world is just a process of efficient causality with no end goal, with no purpose. And this kind of view can create a feeling of the absurdity of existence, because there's no higher purpose. And the philosopher of efficient causes is Spinoza, and Hegel accepts while refuting Spinoza's system, because he adds within Spinoza's view of the totality of being as just being efficient causes, just a causal process without purpose. Hegel adds, one might say, but it's actually spirit thinking itself which adds purpose in Hegel's philosophy. So when we say that Hegel's philosophy is the philosophy of the end of history, it's not that history will stop and there will be nothing. It is, according to Hegel, that history is aiming at, it's the end purpose, the end goal. And finally, I will just end by talking about Ludwig von Mises. He distinguishes in Human Action the science of action, which is purposeful, which is rational in the sense that it is aiming at something, from the scientific hard science, physics, chemistry, biology, which are purposeless. So whether we believe in end causes or not, even from a naturalistic point of view, nature produces for man a purposeful behavior, a purposeful creature, and therefore purpose is inherent in nature. So I will just stop there for now, and I will continue in a later video.